India have done the heavy lifting in their group stage encounter against Pakistan. They are, you could say, assured of top spot in the Super Fours going into the Asia Cup second round. But up against them are a proud Hong Kong side that put in a more than decent shift the last time they played India in this tournament at this venue 4 years ago. A few personnel changes, but is this going to be anything more than an extended net session for India? We shall find out as we focus on some conversations around Indian cricket. There are always conversations around Indian cricket with every T20 game building up to that T20 World Cup in Australia. This is Qatar Airways presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. We'll hear from Wasim Jaffer in just a moment, but I've got Robin Uthappa back. He's had a couple of days to just put his feet up. Was that the drill after an India-Pakistan game? Take 2 days off, do what you want.
Seemed like that, didn't it?
Did you enjoy your 2 days in my city?
I did. I more than enjoyed myself. So that's your city. I can call it mine as well now.
I love it. I love it. I spent a year in Bangalore and I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've had enough of Bombay and you still can't get enough of it.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. And as it turns out, the boy not from Bombay is in Bombay. The boy from Bombay is in Bangladesh. So let's say hello to Wasim Jaffer as well. A very good evening to him. Wasim, you are missing. You don't seem to be missing Bombay a lot. You're enjoying your stint as Bangladesh under-19 head coach and whatnot. Are you missing us?
I am. It's always nice to be in Mumbai while the monsoon is on. So unfortunately, I'm missing it, even though it's raining here as well. But Bombay being Bombay, it's a festival time, so I'm definitely missing it.
Yes, of course, it's festive, especially in our part of the world. So, best wishes to all our viewers, whoever is celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi. And we do know that Wasim Jaffer, in spite of the few years he has ahead of me, still calls it Mumbai. I tend to get into Bombay at times, like I said, Bangalore as well. But I'm not going to get into all that. It's India versus Hong Kong. A toss has gone down in Dubai, and a toss that has gone Nizakat Khan's way. Of course, this is Hong Kong's captain now after Anshuman Rath led them to such an impressive performance against India back in the Asia Cup in 2018. Nizakat was top scorer that day, and he's decided that he's going to bowl first. And it was a very nonchalant way of saying we chased well in the qualifiers, we're looking to chase today as well. Gee, if they pull it off, it'll be the story of, I don't know what, T20 cricket in the last 5 years if they manage it. But India are taking this pretty seriously, Robin Uthappa. We thought they might be tempted to make some changes. They've only made the one change, but they would be taking this game seriously.
Yeah, of course. And I think I think this toss is a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
It gives the top order an opportunity to get in and get some runs and get into form. While at the same time they get first look at batting first and how they can go about scoring 180 runs.
Sure.
That's going to be really crucial for them moving forward in the tournament. So God forbid they lose a toss at the back end of the tournament.
Yep.
They automatically have an idea as to, okay, this is what works. There's going to be a lot of learning from this game. Irrespective of how the game goes, there's going to be a lot of learning from this game when they move forward into the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's is it easier to bat first when you've been put in? We were just wondering if India would win the toss and say, we'll challenge ourselves and bat first. Rohit Sharma said we would have bowled first. We have to take his answer on on his word. But is this easier?
I think it's easier to actually lose a toss and you've been put into bat. So that's how the dust is settled. So you deal with what's on hand. And I think it's a great opportunity for someone like Rahul, Rohit, Virat to kind of just get in there, take their time. I think because these guys, it's very important that these guys are in good form come a big tournament like the Asia Cup and the World Cup that's coming up, right? So you want them to be in good form because in form, these guys are world beaters.
Yeah.
So we just have to get them back in form. So these are the games that you want them to take their time, even if it means, back themselves in a little bit to give themselves a chance to score big runs.
Yep. Yeah, you'd go with that, Wasim, especially with KL Rahul's return after a lengthy layoff due to injury, then surgery. We saw him a bit rusty and scratchy in Zimbabwe. He got a first bowler against Pakistan. This is a good thing that in what's supposed to be the most difficult time to bat in these conditions in Dubai, batting first in that first 20-30 minutes or so, that India will be batting?
I think it's, very rightly Robin said, it's a blessing in disguise. I'm surprised Rohit didn't wanted to bat first. I thought India would probably challenge themselves to bat first because, in the tournament ahead, you might lose toss against a good team and you've been asked to bat first. So I think it's a good thing. KL Rahul is a quality player. You can understand he's a bit rusty. He's coming after a long layoff, with the injury, with surgery. But once he gets going, he's a quality player. So you don't mind that India batting first and players like Rohit, Virat, and KL spending a bit of time. I think Pant is playing as well. So those guys get a good hit. Against these guys, they are a little bit unknown quantity. But I think India batting first is a good thing.
I tell you what, if I was Rohit Sharma, I would have just told Sanjay Manjrekar we were looking to bat first anyway to test ourselves. They don't do that anymore. I thought captains tend to play act a little, make the most, no?
Yeah, I actually was surprised he didn't say that. I was like, why didn't he say that?
Yeah.
I was actually thinking what Wasim Bhai was just saying. He was like, I was like, why wouldn't you bat first and put yourself in that challenge? Because you've already qualified for the Super Fours, so to speak. So why don't you challenge yourself, because in case you lose a toss moving ahead in the tournament, you know what you're going to do, you know what you're up against and what kind of movement and why it's difficult, right? So you get information on hand, but it is what it is.
I mean, if you would have gone and just been a bit cheeky at the toss, someone of the dressing room would have thought, see, really, was that the plan? Did we discuss this? Captains never do anything that hasn't been discussed in the dressing room, do they? I will not ask Robin Uthappa and Wasim Jaffer that question, knowing the captains they played with. But we will discuss the team, shall we? There is one change made. Rohit Sharma re-emphasizes the importance of Hardik Pandya, who had such a big role to play in that win against Pakistan. And the change that they've made is in for Rishabh Pant, which tells us two things, of course, that all their bowlers will bowl their full complement. There is no bowling on the left-hand side of that column, and therefore you will see 4 overs from Ravindra Jadeja as well as an Avesh Khan. A fair call to be rested. I was thinking whether Deepak Hooda might be the replacement to give them that extra bowling option, but they're getting Pant for Hardik, Robbie?
Ideally, yeah, you would like to have had Hooda, but I think they value Pant as much, and this whole debate about Rishabh versus Dinesh Karthik, and I think maybe they want to lay that down to rest a little bit in some fashion, and that's why they're playing. But it also gives the bowlers an opportunity to take responsibility for their own skills and make sure that they go out there and bowl their full quota overs, because they're also going to be bowling, like, again, in non-favorable conditions based on the conditions that are available in Dubai right now. So bowling second is generally harder. So we're going to get them to bowl, especially the likes of Avesh Khan. Just getting into the side, he's young, he's getting there. He's not there yet. He wouldn't walk into an Indian 11 and if Bumrah was there. So for all of these guys, it's an important game.
I can't help but think of the slight risk element, if I can call it that. Wasim, you saw 2 of Pakistan's bowlers come up with cramp in the last game. These are testing conditions. You've not given yourself a 6th bowling option unless we're going to watch Surya Kumar Yadav or Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli roll their arm over. Is this not a risky thing, getting Pant in for Hardik Pandya?
Well, I mean, ideally, if everybody is fit and stays fit, then all 5 bowlers will bowl their quota of overs. That is what probably on their mind. But like you said, if anybody gets injured, then who bowls? So that is a tricky one. But hopefully nothing happens like that. But like I said, you've said, Hooda probably is a good option. If you are thinking anybody to play other than your set players, then Hooda probably gives you that option of 6th bowling option, and he's in a very good form as well. So if at all, I mean, you need to make a change, probably Deepak Hooda is that man to make.
Okay.
In my experience, there are certain things in Indian cricket that you don't try and make logic with, right?
Selection is one of them.
It defies logic certain times. You don't question them, you just kind of roll with the punches.
Okay.
And this is one of them.
All right.
We just roll with it.
In that spirit, the question I would ask is, are India inviting a selection headache? They would have taken a big call, right? We're going to go DK. This is how we're going to play our team for this tournament. And Rishabh, you wait your turn. Now Pant is coming. Now, if Pant gets a bet, I mean, Pant is going to bet higher than DK, you would assume and expect. Let's say it's a blistering innings. What if DK gets a low score and all of a sudden we're back to discussing the same damn thing that we thought was put to bed on the opening game? Or would you say, no, it's Hong Kong, it's fine, we're not going to bring that up?
Just roll with the punches, Raunak. That's all.
I would have just nodded. But I'll bring this to Wasim Jaffer, because we had Robbie the other day who told us that he likes the move. GS echoed it. Wasim wasn't with us for the India-Pakistan game. But did you like the call, Wasim, that India went with DK ahead of Rishabh Pant? And what could them playing together now perhaps do to that dynamic?
Well, I think if you talk about the form, I've said that before as well. Rishabh's T20 form is not great, and that is something which probably was in the consideration. The kind of form that he's got in Test cricket, and in One Day International, is second to none. If you compare it to the best batsman going forward at this point of time, along with Joe Root or maybe name anyone. But the same form is not the same with Rishabh Pant in T20 International. And DK plays a different role. He bats at 6 and he comes in the last 5 overs. So Rishabh Pant doesn't do that. Rishabh Pant comes at number 4 and he's not been consistent. The only debate you can have is that there's no left-hander at the top of the order and you'd be tempted to play him because Pakistan had Shadab Khan and Mohammad Nawaz, but they did the right thing by sending Jadeja, top of the order, which upset their plans. And that worked in India's favor because they saved 1 over of Mohammad Nawaz and it came in handy. So the only debate is about when the opposition has got left arm spinner or maybe a leg spinner, you'd be tempted to play. But in place of who? That is the only question mark. So I don't mind DK playing because he does a certain job which is doing really well since IPL. Rishabh Pant has to strike form in T20 International. It hasn't happened in the IPL. It hasn't happened in the T20 International. So unfortunately, he hasn't got that place. And like I said, Deepak Hooda gives you more promise. He gives you much more than Rishabh Pant at the moment.
Yeah, and jokes aside, when you look at what Deepak Hooda has done since the IPL and before that even, he's a terrific player. He's a tremendous player, and he's not put a foot wrong. Everything you've thrown at him, he's taken it and he's come out with flying colours. Yeah. So for me, something like this does not make sense because you've rested an all-rounder for the sake of his fitness. I get that, and that's beautiful. You want to protect a player like him because he adds so much value that he becomes 2 players in a 11. Right, Mickey was saying in the last game, he said it literally becomes a player like you're playing with 12,
yes.
Right? But when you take someone like, give him a break, you want to give someone who deserves an opportunity there, who's really in good striking form at the moment. You send him to open the batting in Ireland, he scored 100.
Yeah.
You send him in the middle order, you chuck the new ball at him, he bowled you maidens. So suddenly he's doing everything that you want him to do, and then when an opportunity like this comes at a big stage for him to play, he's sitting out. And that begs the question, like, what's the thought process?
Sure.
And that's a $1 million question. Everyone like to know an answer to.
Yeah, like a wise man once told me, you don't question certain things in Indian cricket. There's no logic. You just go with it. Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, like Robbie says, jokes aside, we were in fact discussing that Deepak Hooda could very well challenge for Ravindra Jadeja's spot as well. So this is a utility T20 cricketer, versatile. I guess, does it tell us something that we were expecting Hardik to not bowl much in this game? If you replayed, you would have played as a batter. And therefore, they're going by what could be perceived as the pecking order of batting.
Perhaps that is well, but you also want to you want to have a little bit of foresight. You want to think of, okay, at the World Cup, God forbid something happens to, God forbid, nobody wants that. But if something happens to one of the all-rounders, right, who are you going to pick? Yeah. You'd want a guy who could bowl, and Deepak Hooda is your man. Why won't you give him game time?
Yeah.
For me, that is the question I would want an answer to.
Yeah, all right, absolutely fair. The one thing this does put to rest is there are a lot of us that tend to believe is it just DKV Pant. Actually, it's not. India can play both of them because they play different roles. So you do have Rishabh Pant who fits into 11 in spite of having a keeper batter. It'll be interesting to see who takes the gloves today. You'd assume it has to be Pant, but funny things can happen. Right, let's not spend more time on this. We'll come to it in a bit. Let's spend some time on KL Rahul, shall we? Because we, of course, have seen Gaurav Sundaraman play a big role in this Asia Cup on T20 timeout. We don't have JS with us today, but we couldn't do without him. So we've got the numbers that he's been digging up. What are his observations? And then let's have Wasim and Robin talk about it, because you have 2 opening batters to discuss another. Let's go to Gaurav Sundaraman.
Well, there's a different avatar here sitting from the hotel, but sorry, Raunak, I'm not able to be there at the studio today due to a personal emergency. But I've still done my job. I've dug out some interesting numbers for you guys to discuss and dissect. With respect to India, the player I've chosen is KL Rahul. It's a very interesting player right now. Coming back from a long layoff. Yes, he's injured. He might be a player who needs to play consistently to maybe score those big runs. But over the last couple of years, there's a small pattern which I've identified, and it'd be interesting to see what their views are or the experts' views are. So, first of all, let's look at it in 3 ways. First thing is he gets out pretty early. He gets out below 20 runs quite often. Then the manner of dismissal. How does he get out? He gets out either caught behind or bowled. And to whom does he get out? He gets out to a similar kind of bowlers, really express fast bowlers or the left-arm swing bowlers who kind of not super fast, but they just have that ability to swing in late. So when you look at the stats, it's very, very interesting. He's got out bowled 5 times in his last 11 innings. which is pretty high for a player like KL Rahul. And he's got out for duck also on 4 occasions. And I remember even in the IPL, the first ball which he faced to Mohammad Shami, he got out played on. He's gotten out like that pretty often over the last 1 year. Why is that happening? I don't know. The kind of bowlers he's gotten out to, Kagiso Rabada, Jofra Archer, he struggled against Prasidh Krishna. If you see the stats, his strike rates are low against such kind of bowlers. Whereas the likes of Mohammad Siraj, Shardul Thakur, Harshal Patel, he has kind of really dominated them. Raunak, it would be interesting to know what Robbie thinks of it. He's played with KL. He's followed KL closely. Is it a technical issue or is it something in the mind? Very interested to see whether Robbie can kind of dissect KL Rahul even more.
Many thanks to GS, and yes, he does his job. He brings us the numbers and he brings us the talking points at least. So let's get Wasim and Robbie to break that down for us. I guess the first thing that strikes me about that is just how often he gets bowled and whether that tells you anything.
Well, that tells me that he plays very close to his body and sometimes too late. So we've known KL Rahul to be someone who plays the ball very late, and that's what makes him so much of a joy to watch. Right, so in doing so, there are times you can play it a little too late, like what happened against Naseem Shah in the previous game against Pakistan. He tried to play too close to his body, but he was a little late on that ball. It skidded through as the first ball he played, and that ball hit his bat and then ricocheted onto the stumps. So that's the tendency, I think, why he gets, especially when he's playing quicker bowlers. Because if the slower bowler, he's got more time, he's watching them. Sometimes the quicker bowlers can come through a little bit, and they can hurry you up a little bit. And in trying to play the ball late, he'd probably end up, inside edging it back onto his stumps. So that can be one of the reasons. What is interesting is the fact that the stat that GS pulled out, that he said he gets out under 20 a lot, right? So for me, that tells me if KL Rahul gets 20 or 25 runs or more, you know that he's in for a long time. You probably will get him in the first 20 runs if you can, but if he bats longer than that, then you know that he's going to get a big score. And we've seen that trend with Rahul. Rahul is a very different player in the IPL compared to what he is in international cricket. He's a lot more flamboyant in international cricket, but not as flamboyant in IPL, but a lot more consistent in the IPL. So you also have to consider the fact that he's coming back to 100 days of not playing any cricket. Right? And 100 days marred with a surgery, an abdomen surgery. Finished that, was recovering, got hit by COVID. That beat the life out of him, from what I know. And he came back. A little push for him to go to that Zimbabwe tour, but he made that push. He got there, definitely rusty. Because when you take 100 days off from cricket itself, and then you come back, and then you're playing that at the highest level, it's going to take a little while to get back into your groove. My simple question is, would you like an in-form KL Rahul to open the batting with Rohit Sharma at the World Cup, or would you like anybody else to open the batting with Rohit Sharma in the World Cup? That, I think, the answer to that, immediately you know you want an informed KL Rahul, right?
I think it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it's genuinely a rhetorical question. So essentially what you want is to give the guy a go, to just get into form. Take his time, just spend time at the crease, break that rust away, get into your groove, get that flow going, get the rhythm going, get your blood flowing. And once that happens, we know what KL Rahul can do.
Yeah, I mean, this is there have been enough observations, opinions made by experts on this platform and many others that Rahul is India's best T20 batter, period, right? In spite of having Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli in his prime. So pedigree and ability of KL Rahul is not in question. This is more about an observation that GS has noticed and whether it tells us something. Wasim Jaffer has spent enough time with KL Rahul as well in the dugouts in the IPL too. Now, what stands out about those stats, Wasim, for you? Robbie talks about the frequency with which he gets out with a score of less than 20. There's also the point of getting bowled. What would you like to add?
Well, I think most of the points have been covered by Robbie. Actually, those are the most important points. I mean, he plays two different brand of cricket. When he plays in the IPL, he plays differently. He takes his time. He's a little bit more conservative. He gets, the orange cap, or, he's always in that race. The franchise is always on him, at least the batting department. But when he comes and plays for India, he's a lot more flamboyant, very attacking. His strike rates are up. So, you can't compare his IPL batting to international batting. But I think he plays the ball really late, and the seam bowlers actually troubles him. Sometimes he gets hurried and he wants to play those balls to third man, and that's the time when it jacks back in, he gets played on quite a bit. And we've seen that with Mohammad Shami and probably Jofra Archer and all those bowlers, Prasidh Krishna, somebody who hits the deck and, comes back in. So those are the bowlers trouble him. But again, the more he plays, sometimes when you come back after an injury, after a long layoff, it's not easy. It's not easy. You don't get that. Sometimes you are in a very good form and that injury strikes, or, the COVID happened to him. At international level, to come back and start scoring runs. So I think we need to give the man a little bit of time. He's a core player. So now gets going, he's a dangerous player, match winner itself. So I think we just need to calm down, talking so negatively about.
All right, we're just going to try and re-establish that link with Wasim, but we got the gist of most of it. So let's just quickly end that conversation with Rahul. Again, I don't think a lot of us have doubts on Rahul's place or position in the team, but this a perception of tentativeness tends to come in with Rahul. Are a series of low scores, you almost tend to, the guy well, I don't know him, but you almost see it on his face. That it tends to drop. Is that sort of a concern?
No, it's not for me, because I think he understands his game way better than he did a few years ago.
Yeah.
And if you look at his stats, his IPL average is 48. And his and his T20I average is 39 point something, right? And his strike rate at the IPL is 136 compared to 142 in T20Is.
Yeah.
So that just tells a story in itself, right? So it's about just getting this bloke back in form. If he gets back in form, we're as good as gold at the top of the order, right? A couple of years ago, we were having discussions about who's our middle order going to be.
Yes.
We don't have that conversation anymore, right? So we don't need to have a conversation about the top order either.
Oh, of course.
It's just about getting these blokes back in the form. That's all we should be concerned about. That's all the Indian team should be concerned about. Getting these guys back in the form. Because if they get back in the form, we're giving ourselves, India's giving itself the best chance to do well in these big ICC tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. Robin Uthappa nails it there. Gives you the difference in numbers between KL Rahul in IPL cricket versus T20I cricket. It does tell a story. Don't make him captain. No, I'm kidding. It's awesome. I was going to say it then, but I didn't want to diffuse the tension. But I had to let it out. Nah, we love it. Rahul's right up there. He's the designated vice captain, I think, in white ball cricket. Let's go to Wasim Jaffer. Yes, Wasim.
How about bringing the orange cap in the international cricket, and Rahul will have it all the time?
Wasim, well done. That was like on the head.
Is the tweet loading? Wasim Jaffer or the Insta post? Come on, let's put it out. All right.
An orange cap for the Asia Cup and the World Cup.
I noticed that when Afghanistan were playing, they have a naturally orange cap. So when Rashid Khan was wearing it, it just seemed normal.
Wrong.
It just seemed alright because Rashid Khan, purple cap. You're right. So that's the thing. So maybe we should introduce the orange cap. Who knows? Maybe one day it'll come. All right, this was great fun, but it tells you something about KL Rahul. Keep an eye out for how he goes when Hong Kong throws some pace at him. Let's hope he gets into form for at least Indian cricket's sake. It's great to watch KL Rahul when he's in full flow. His partner Rohit Sharma, for what it's worth, we just bring out numbers. Rohit almost looked bored in the last game. He didn't get a lot of strike in the first 3 or 4 overs. It's hard to be bored in an India-Pakistan game, but Rohit Sharma, I'm just going by body language, not by actual what may have happened. As we just look at how he tends to go, Rohit, we do know that he tends to get dismissed while facing that 7th to 15th ball or so. He's such a curious player, Rohit Sharma. I mean, we love the way he plays. At times, it just feels like the game's so easy for him as well.
The game is actually very easy for him, and he's blessed with immense ability. And I think he's played to that potential as well for the most part of his career. It took him a while to get to play to his potential, but once he started doing that really, really well. And I think there's a pattern to which he bats as well. You've noticed in one-day cricket and in T20 cricket that is like in one-day cricket, his first 50 runs is really slow. But he'll take probably 70, 80 balls to get his first 50. But once he gets that first 50, the next 50 to 75 to 100 runs are much quicker. And similarly with T20I cricket and T20 cricket, when he's in form, his first 30 runs are a little slow. It's run a ball, a little less than run a ball, sometimes a little more than a run a ball. But once he gets that 30 runs, 40 runs, and you know that he's a super dangerous player, and you got to be aware, you got to be really scared of him then.
Do you sense with the way he's approaching T20 cricket now in this new template or brand of Cricket India committing themselves to before the World Cup, that in a good way, Rohit is in that mind space of not aspiring to play a long T20 innings? We're seeing numbers where he gets out about every 17 balls or so. So which tells us just the number of balls on an average he used to consume before being dismissed. That has drastically gone down from the last 4 years, and we saw a lot of 70s, 80s, 90s from Rohit Sharma, but now we're not seeing that. Is that still not a bad thing?
I genuinely cannot. I don't feel like you can do justice to these numbers, because they haven't played consistently over a period of time for you to actually kind of signify that, okay, this is a pattern here. These are the stats. I don't know if it shows a pattern, so to speak. So for me, I honestly wouldn't be able to give you a reasoning for it.
Let me get Wasim's thoughts as well. Wasim, just the approach Rohit Sharma seems to be taking now. It looks like, the big scorers, if it happens, it happens. But we've seen him. He doesn't consume a lot of balls trying to build an innings, perhaps like he used to.
I think so. I think he's batting on the template that Indian batting is playing now, and I think him being a captain, he needs to lead from the front, and that's why he's playing like that. He's not worried about probably getting big 100 or maybe even 80 or something like that. If he gives them a brisk start, and if he goes on and keep that strike rate up all the time, I think he'll be happy to do that, because that's how Indian team's playing since the last World Cup. And I think he's changed his approach, and which is good to see. If your captain does that, I think all the other batters are forced to do that. So I think it's good to see him do that.
All right, fair enough. Now let's just talk about Hong Kong for a minute or two before that game gets underway. This is a team that's enjoying their best year in T20I cricket. 2022 has seen Nizakat Khan's side come up with their best win percentage. Of course, they do not play the quality of opposition that the full members tend to, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and Hong Kong have done that 63% of the time this year. If you look at some of their standout players, they're going to be bowling first. Let's look at their top 3 wicket takers in T20Is. India will have the threat of Ehsan Khan against them, and you will also see enough quality in the form of Nizakat Khan himself with bat in the second half of this innings. Babar Hayat as well at number 3. Asim Murtaza, another player to watch out for. So they have the batting. We shall wait and see how that unfolds in a T20 game against India. Right, we wrap it up here. Let's quickly get first innings predictions from Robbie and Wasim Jaffer, as we know that KL Rahul has safely negotiated his first ball. So that's a tick in the right box. Teams have struggled to understand how to bat first in Dubai this time of year. What approach are you seeing from India? What score do you think they'll get?
So for me, I think the approach would be to get off to a good start, and I think that's the foundation of it all. I think you set up a great foundation. Even if you get to about 40 at the end of the 6th over, little more than 6 runs and over, I think without losing more than a wicket, you put yourself in a great place to set up a great foundation. It's how you play between 7 and 13 is going to dictate what kind of score you're going to get. I'm predicting that India will get about 170, between 170 and 180 in this game.
All right, interesting. Wasim, would you go with that? You have to almost go back to playing the old school T20 game, keep wickets in hand, be happy with 170, don't really go all bang, bang, bang?
Well, I don't think so. I think India would like to play in the same brand. Unfortunately, they didn't do that, which I was surprised a little bit. What approach we talked about, that didn't happen, because obviously the quality of the bowling was much better, and the conditions were helping the fast bowlers. But I think today probably 170, between 170 and 80. I'll also go with that same score. I think India will be happy if they get there. I think that's the score they should be aiming at.
All right. Thank you very much to Wasim Jaffer as well as Robin Uthappa. More from them at halftime on Qatar Airways presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timer to see how many India have eventually ended up with.